It is Cowsills Podcast, episode 116 and counting.
What?
Oh, 116? Nice.
Yeah.
We need to have like maybe an anniversary, like, so we're at 116, maybe when we're 150, we'll have a big party.
100.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is that there's only 52 episodes in a year. So at 116, we're definitely deep into a second year.
Yes, we
Are
are.
we?
Yes,
Yes.
we are.
Wonder
Yes,
if they
we are.
give gold
And we're
watch.
loving it. I thought we'd run out of guests about maybe early year after 1 year.
We will never run out of guests. How about
There's
that?
people everywhere. I love it, you know.
In our
Yeah.
lifetime, we
Hey,
all know too many people.
speaking of that, let's just tell them today our guest is our good friend from the old days, Phil Solem.
Yes.
Solem, member of the Rembrandts with Danny Wilde, and a Great Buildings, member of Great Buildings, member of Loose Change before Great Buildings, great musician, great history with the Rembrandts. We all know the Friends theme song. We'll get to that, of course, but they are much more than that, believe me. Great pop duo, Danny and Phil Solem. So that's our guest today.
Yes.
Going to talk about our gig coming up. It's our last gig for the 2023 year. And it is December 19th in Tomball, Texas, a Christmas show with
I love it.
microphone stands decorated. Oh, we got to remember the Christmas lights. Holy cow.
Hey guys, guess what I found? I have
Easy
to
to
interrupt.
forget.
It's important. Do
Okay.
you remember when we left Branson last year?
Yes.
And I got that red suitcase from the thrift store, and I put all the Christmas lights and everything in it, and then
Whoa.
went through security and got pulled
Whoa.
over because of my suspicious looking bag, but
Yeah.
also had explosive powder on it because I got it from a thrift store, which can come from aerosol cans.
Right.
Guys. But anyway, I found that.
Good.
And I am simply going to take that little red bag. I opened it up. It has all of our Christmas in it
We
from
love
our
it.
show. So
We love
I'm
it.
Yeah.
writing it out.
Now, this is a trio show, everybody, in Tomball. That's me,
Yep,
Paul,
trio.
with a guitar and 3 voices. And between Susan and I, we have 20 fingers, and you can get a lot of sound out of 20 fingers and 3 voices, and 12 strings. 12 strings. So we have a lot going on. It sounds minimal. It is not. There's plenty of sound,
No.
fun, and we're going
And I think we're gonna have questions and answers. We're gonna have storytelling.
Yes.
It's not just
Yes.
musica. Yeah.
We do have,
Right.
in fact, one of the questions that someone said would just share some Christmas memories. We won't do it this episode, but yeah, we can do that maybe next week or the week after, get into
Oh,
some
I like it. I
Christmas
have a
memories.
lot. There's some
Well-
funny ones too, like the washer dryer year. We won't tell. We'll wait. Share it with you later. We might have mentioned it occasionally.
I remember the cannon shooting the bulbs off the Christmas tree, mom freaking out, but dad saying,
Yeah.
leave them alone.
And
Anything.
then
Yeah.
there was a rubber-ended dart gun year that also had something to do with shooting things off that didn't end so well.
It could
Well,
be.
we got BB guns.
Why do they get us all this stuff and then we get in trouble for playing with it?
Well, because Bill got shot in the eye.
Now-
That's classic, isn't it?
It's
Well,
a
it
classic
actually didn't
story.
hit his eye. It hit his nose.
Yeah, and it was a ricochet because we heard later, for years, it was told our good friend Danny Fitzgerald shot Bill in the eye with a BB gun. That sounds,
That's right.
sounds
I remember
terrible.
that.
it ricocheted off a rock. Okay.
Yeah.
But it happened, and the BB gun era ended with that.
It was short-lived, man.
I said less weaponry, and we got guns, we got bows and arrows, we got cowboys, Indians every Christmas.
Yep. The Fanner 50 was big one Christmas. The Fanner 50.
The caps, we bought caps galore. The
Oh,
smell of the
God.
caps. Love the smell of the caps.
I just had that happen just about a month ago. I don't know where I was, and I smelt the caps.
Oh,
Somebody
man.
around where I was walking had them. There's no other smell than cap
Yeah, there isn't.
smell.
Hey,
Yeah, that was good.
I noticed something on TV the other day. I don't know if you guys have seen this business of ABBA and even Kiss using avatars to give a
Yes.
concert. I mean, is that wild? Is this the new tribute band? We get avatars, and not only that, ABBA's Avatar show. The 4 of them come down. It's not them. They made it up, and it's not them. And it's made 1.2 million in London over the last year.
Whoa. I was just going to say nobody will ever avatar us. And now I want to say, how do we get avatared?
Well, you know what
Yeah.
I'm thinking about us. Interesting you said that, Susan. I
Yeah.
thought, well, we have one distinction. There will never be a Cowsills tribute band. And because there's tribute bands on everybody now. I just don't think it's going to happen. And not because we're not big enough. It's too complex.
No, unless our kids get bored as years go by and they're all sitting around, they all say, hey, what do you guys think? Let's pull a Cowsill tribute band. They're weird. They're funny. They write songs and send me clips all the time of all of them playing and singing stuff.
There are
Never know.
plenty musical cousins in this family.
Serious.
Well, there are. They could
I
put
saw a
the-
Cowsill production of the wee ones earlier. It was an anti-Thanksgiving. It was a taco Thanksgiving, and it was called Guacamole, Guacamole, Guacamole.
There you go.
It was great.
Main Street
yeah.
Crossing, Main Street Crossing in Tomball. That's what you want to hear about. That's where you want to go, Texans. Okay, we don't get there often. We don't get there often.
We're a little far from Amarillo. We're a little far from Lubbock, but we're very close to Houston. So Houston people, when you're hearing us, Tomball, 40 minutes away from you, you can have a great night, have a nice dinner and a show.
I love a good dinner show.
Yeah, I like a dinner.
Yeah.
But
like
you
to
know
hear
what,
it.
guys? When we were little, I didn't like it because guess what? I mean, I know they fed us and stuff, but I know I was hungry a lot more times than my kid ever was, even when we were famous. And sometimes we'd hit the stage at a dinner show and I'd be like, whew, and I couldn't stop looking at their food because I was so hungry.
It's
Yeah.
funny. I'm older, so my memory of the dinner shows is the clanging of the silverware as the staff are moving around your show and picking things up. You know,
I remember that too, but I also remember salivating and thinking, why should I be hungry? I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
And then
But
the
right
food-
before that dinner show, Susan, we used to go in the back way in the Flamingo and we'd go through the kitchen and the rolls were all just
I
coming out.
remember
of the
Polly
oven.
grabbing rolls.
Man, we were just grabbing those rolls.
I remember.
Loved
I
them.
remember all about Vegas. You guys, Vegas was a blast for me. Mom and dad were so busy being mom and dad somewhere else. I had a wonderful time.
Yeah, you know, it didn't take until actually Branson for me to get a comparable kind, because when you went to Vegas, you stayed there, and we had the blue GTO convertible. We were happening, and it was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
Branson was like that a lot in terms of you stayed there, you settled in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a show every night too in Vegas, actually, you know.
It's
But, yeah.
different. No, I agree. Residency feels different. Sleepover
Yeah.
residency. And I remember it well from being a kid because it felt like a vacation to me when we'd stop and do a week or two somewhere. Then you're home for a while. You know, so I can dig why that reminds you of that.
Yeah.
I was amazed in Branson with how well our voices held up.
Yeah.
You know,
I-
because we had all that other singing going around besides the set, you know.
You
For
mean
sure.
the weeks we spent before individually rehearsing and our voices are going like, you've never moved this way before. What is this?
Yeah, exactly.
All the
That's
time.
going to happen to us on the Rock and Romance and the Malt Shop because we're going to be singing stuff. Our voices are going to be what? I mean, most of it we know from our cellular radio cells. All of it.
Yeah.
You know, but still, it's
New
not what we've been
experiences.
doing.
I still say
Yeah.
we'll get a Christmas residency next year. They've redefined residency.
Red Sox,
can be a residency.
Boston.
And a residency doesn't have to be month after month after month. It can be a
No.
week.
Yeah,
And they're calling it a residency.
they
We're
are.
going to get one.
Yeah.
I feel you're right,
With
Robert,
you.
about that. I'm
Yeah, I
feeling
think you
good about
could.
it.
I mean,
Okay,
I
why
would-
are we looking at your new Boston hat, Polly?
Because I'm done with people asking me about my other hat.
You
And
gave
I'm
in?
just going to go back
You've
to
gone
this hat.
back. Really? I don't blame you.
Yeah.
It was a pain in the butt.
I always like seeing a bee on hats, you know, because you know.
Polly.
He's great.
And look, sometimes the
paying
magic
homage.
works and sometimes it doesn't. It's okay.
I think he's paying homage
Right.
to me. He's
Yeah,
paying
and I think
homage to
people
me.
were being very limited in their availability to think outside of any kind of box, but whatever.
And
that-
Yeah.
the Happy Together tour is taking shape, folks. It's Jane the Americans, the Cowsills, the Association, the Vogues, Turtles, and
And Joey Molland,
Badfinger. Okay,
that's 6.
great songs. Can't wait to see the new Jay. I guess it's Jay number 5 and Jay.
There's a new Jay from the last Jay we saw when we were in Mass.
I think it's still him. We met Jay and the Americans with the new Jay, and I think
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
still
okay. Okay.
that Jay.
Okay.
And he sings Cara Mia, which to me is their big song in terms of reaching for notes and everything. And God
Yeah.
bless him. If
It's
he does
huge.
that every night for 50 nights,
Yeah. And they're kind of like the Vogues, right? I mean, as far as,
Yeah. I would say it's very genre-like.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the Globes, the Letterman, Jay and the Americans, is Brooklyn Bridge. There's a group of groups to me that, yeah, I think I named a group that kind of
I can
has,
say what about them
you know,
there is that we all know, and
big
it's
vocals.
okay to say, but they're
Oh,
older than us, and they
well,
are from a different musical genre than
yeah,
per se our Bucks, our Cowsills, our Roots,
yeah.
our association. Almost kind of, they come out of all that in a way, and then
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
would
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
not say that? So for me, these two bands, and I think it's fantastic. I mean, hey, music, eclectic, more diverse, go man, go.
It's funny with all the groups we play with and Christmas time being here, we never did a Christmas album. Now, we never sat down and said, we're not going to do a Christmas album. Everybody does them. We just never did.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't know why we're the most Christmassy people I know.
I know. I can't
Weird.
explain it. I think it is in our future. I don't know how,
I
but
know what it is. It was such a sacred project that it had to wait for the perfect, most clear time so we could really be in the moment and not have any turmoil or, back then we probably would have had this Christmas record that we had all these horrible stories about. Now we'll just have a Christmas record that'll be sweet and lovely.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
like,
Yeah.
let's do a Christmas album. Well, that was one of Dad's big missteps. He took Christmas away from Bill. I'm not going to sing on a Christmas album thinking of that.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's
And
better.
you would have thought that either Dad or somebody would have said to Dad as Christmas came about,
Right.
man, we got to do a Christmas album. I mean, why
They
wouldn't they
might
say
have.
that with a bunch of kids,
Your
They
family.
might
know.
have. We don't know.
Right.
Hey,
And family, yeah. So,
we don't know. But certainly,
well,
and you look at the Letterman, they had like 8 Christmas albums, like one a year.
crazy.
It's
That is crazy.
But
Well,
it's
if Rock
pretty
has
cool.
anything to say about it, we'll be doing a Christmas album.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
he's been saying it for quite a while.
Rock
you-
has texted me out of the blue, spontaneously in the past 6 months. Have you ever done a Christmas album? Well, what about a Christmas album? They would say, why do you
Same.
keep asking about Christmas? Because he probably goes on the internet and said, well, they've certainly done a Christmas album. It's the Cowsills. And he goes up and
Right, right.
nothing. Crickets. It's like, were you kidding
Crickets,
me?
I tell you, I think we have a little preciousness about it that we might not even be aware of.
Now, the Happy Together tour is probably not going to be 60 shows, people. That's what we're hearing, maybe a little less than 60 shows we're hearing, because we were told it's going to end August 26th. So right there is like, why end August 26th? We always go to September 1st, but we're not.
Yeah, that's 5 shows.
Things
Yeah, what's up with
change.
that? Yeah.
Things can change. We don't know any ruling about the casino in Michigan, the Four Winds, if we're still going to be sitting in our bus punished this summer once again. And we're good with
We
that.
fared well. We fared well last time, and I believe we'll fare well again if that is exactly what happens.
Well, it ended up being we didn't care. And so that means it ended up being an extra day off when everybody else worked. So we kind of got into that part of it. That was pretty fun.
Oh, look at my cup, y'all. Or not. Look, I have a cup in my hand and you can't tell.
No, I can't see it. Oh, whoa. That was like magic. That was cool.
I feel like Samantha Stevens. Wink, wink, wink.
Just as a disclaimer, with Phil Solem coming up in the Rembrandts and all that, you guys who know who Phil is and what he did, we want you to know, and we'll talk about it with Phil just quickly in case we skip over it because it was so. When we were in Earshot recording studios in the late 70s, rehearsing for the Cocaine Drain album, Phil Solem was in with his band Loose Change, rehearsing to launch a career. They were rehearsing in the same
And
place.
to play Madame Wong's.
And we got to know everyone's going to do the club scene at the same time. And Phil had his group. It'll be great to talk about the Earshot days when they rehearsed and
I'm so looking forward to it.
But we want you to know that he was going to go on to do great things. But at the time, in 78, 79, about 78, we're at Earshot, and he's got his rock band. We're trying to come back with the Cocaine Drain album and get a producer with Chuck Clock, and then the whole story's unfolding right there while Loose Change is unfolding. So we'll get into that with Phil and that'll be a lot of fun to see what happened
So
after we parted ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're pretty
Yeah.
deep into Christmas here. How's it going, Paul? I saw you have your lights up on your house. I saw
Yep.
Louis got the tree.
We
So
got
I
the
know
tree,
you're- Got the tree.
and the lights have been on that now. So
All
we're
right,
just
we're gonna go. We're gonna go over to
and
Bob.
now-
Bob?
No, Bob's kids are gone, and Bob's too old for laddering outside the house and
Very good, Bob.
I had decades of decorating outside the house.
God knows.
And now it's like I'm 74. It's like I'm in the house all the time. Although I always used to like driving home from the store and seeing the lights, but I am not going to put myself through it.
May
Uh,
I suggest something?
I just can't,
May I suggest something?
Certainly.
Great. I happen to know that there are certain services that will come and put your lights up on your house. Then,
Yeah.
once done, leave them up there. Be that guy who leaves them all year. Plug them in.
Can't do that.
Okay.
If I outsourced it to the companies that do it, I'd tell them no white bulbs. I don't like the white bulbs.
That's fine.
I like the soft glow of non-whiteness in the blue, red, and green and oranges. And I know I could do that, but I
I'm
don't.
already ready to do it. Maybe next year. Come on.
Yeah, maybe next year. But
Okay.
I stopped doing outside, and I live vicariously for Paul when he sends me his outside. That's enough for me. He's my
Okay, I'll
brother.
send you mine too. Maybe it'll double up and you won't have to do it next year at all.
Now, the other problem with me is if I decide to do it and I say, I'll put one string of lights on, it's never going to stop at one string of lights, ever.
And
It's gonna-
also, I
it's
don't
gonna
really want
become-
either one of you on a roof.
It's going to become bushes and everything else has to have its lights also. Nah, I go up on roofs. Roofs are okay.
I don't like it. I'd prefer you both hire somebody, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
Look
you
at
ever
Paul.
see
I
the
love this. I
commercial?
just said it to see your face, Goliath.
Yeah.
The thing you can buy, you sit it on the lawn and it turns and it covers your entire house in stars or something.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like those. I would
Oh, I don't
never
like
have.
those
I
at
don't get
all.
sheets of lights to put on my bushes.
Yeah,
Hey,
no,
Horrible.
yeah, I don't like that either.
did we ever I'm trying to remember because I definitely have a look in my head. It was a thing. It was a thing, a light wheel that would go like this, and it had a light behind it, and it was about that big.
Yeah.
Did we have that at our house?
Yes,
We
we
did.
had it and Onel had it. Now, we actually had it under a regular tree, and they're for those silver trees. Onel had one, and it to be put up on the silver ones, that is, I believe,
Oh,
one of our years, Mom, it might have been 611, we had one, or Grammy did, because I have the same memory.
yeah.
You're right.
Somebody-
Those came with the very first fake trees that were these little silver things that you turn
Yeah.
color as this thing rotates.
Yeah.
But I think Mom got one from somebody and put it under ours just to see how it would go.
But we never
Yeah.
had lights on a house ever because Christmas wasn't Dad's thing; it was Mom's thing.
Right.
Right.
She may have said once, "Bud, put lights on the house." He probably didn't want to do it.
He said, if you would stop buying presents, I might have some money to pay for some lights for that, Barbara.
Yeah.
But
Mom was
look,
great. When she
Mom
went
would-
Christmas shopping, who remembers what line Mom always used when she had to go Christmas shopping? And she knew that we kind of knew she was going out there. We'd say, "Where are you going, Mom?" Do you remember the
She'd
line?
go, I'm going to see a man about
Man
a
about a
horse.
horse.
Yep. She got, "I'm going to go see a man about a horse." That's
Awesome.
she used it all the time. And I don't know, maybe once. And did we ever go, are we getting a horse? Are we getting a horse? We kind of figured out it was her code. For
Yes.
nothing. Yeah.
I had
Yeah,
to, I had to figure that out on a very sad summer afternoon because I was 5 and because I was all hooked into horses up the street with Carter Nash and Mayfair and all this. And Mom and Dad, I'm sitting on the porch at 611 and Mom and Dad are leaving and they are going probably to the Black Pearl or something. And I said, "Can I come? Where are y'all going? Where are you guys going?" And Mom turned around and said, "We're going to see a man about a horse." And I went, and Dad went, "You be good." And I'm thinking, I am sitting here and they're bringing a horse home and they didn't.
In August,
Polly, oh, devastated.
Yeah.
we
I
have
always thought it was a
look
good
at
thing.
Look how good looking this guy got in life. Look at him.
God, he was
You're looking in the
adorable.
mirror, Bob.
He was
Oh yeah, nice
adorable
try,
when he
nice
was
try, good
little.
baby.
Guys,
Look at this. This is how many decades
Phil.
making.
many.
I'm a
Amazing.
little
79.
teary-eyed right now. I'm a little teary-eyed. Hi,
Oh,
Really?
Susan.
are you
Sweetheart.
kidding?
Hey, Phil, I gotta let you know, man, when
Let him get
whatever
his shit
success
together.
you had,
Come
but
on,
that
Paul.
little
Come on,
that
get it
little
out.
that little bit of success you had, it was so fun to know you, during the grunge of it all, the loose change, and then all of a sudden you're there. You flipped us out. We were
We
so
were like, the
excited.
freaking kids are on TV.
We
It
loved
was
it.
great. How many times did I say, I know that guy. He's a very good friend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we made like we
Yeah.
were besties. I don't know about you guys. I told stories. Oh, and then we did this. I told stories that I knew happened with other people that are friends of mine that happened with Phil and pretended I was there. It's awful.
You were there.
Not at the
Can I-
whiskey in the paddy wagon. I was
You
not
do a
at that
formal-
event.
Can you
Yeah.
do a formal intro. Let's do a formal.
Didn't come
Ladies and gentlemen,
downstairs.
our guest today is Phil Solem. He of Loose Change, Great Buildings, Rembrandts, and solo career fame. And look, can we cover one issue real quick? I just want to.
Yeah, here's to you,
Oh,
Philip.
he's the guy that did the Friends song. Look, we know about Friends. We know about I'll Be There with you, the song from Friends, and Phil's involved. We'll get into a little of that. But this career is way beyond that 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Phil's career is way beyond that one song. Although we all want a song like that in our satchel. That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
we're so appreciative when we get one. We have a few of our own. But
You guys have
even
way
our
more than I
career is
do.
more than just that. And we want to get into some of that with Phil, starting when he
And
was a little boy. So
and
Susan,
so Philip, first I start us off. So first I want to say welcome. And I cannot believe
Thanks
you're
for having-
sitting there and we're both still alive. So yay. Number one.
yeah.
Number
Everybody-
oh man, yeah, LA in the 70s and
Oh, seven.
80s. God help us all. So anyway, hi Phil, welcome to the show. So here's what I like to do. I like to find out about Phil. So you're born to your mom and dad, right? Where were you born? I didn't see your
Duluth.
hometown. Huh?
Duluth.
Duluth. Thank
Minnesota,
Bob.
baby.
Minnesota.
Okay,
The
so
one in
you're in
Minnesota,
Duluth.
not,
You got a mom and a
Georgia.
dad who live in Duluth, and unto them is born a son named Phil. So you ended up being this incredibly musical man and more. But how does a guy start out like that? Did you want to be a fireman? Did you want to be a garbage man? Or were you always Phil looking at guitars, hearing, and did your parents, I know they brought music in. So, but was there anything else you wanted to do? And how did you just start the whole thing?
Well, that's a toughie. Although
Okay, we'll go to
as soon as
another
I saw, well, I can answer it. It's like, hang on, got to rewind the clock.
Okay, we got all the time in the world.
Anyway, I remember as a tiny child seeing the Lucy show, and I saw Ricky Ricardo playing, conga,
Mhm.
and that just made me go like, I can do that. And then I started seeing like Elvis movies, and
Okay.
I thought, no, I got to do that. Meanwhile, my dad was a great singer and played all the, chords. He knew
Oh,
a
there
few
you go.
fancy chords, but mostly cowboy stuff. So he taught me some chords, and
And were your
That's kinda
parents,
how-
did they actually play music? Were they did your dad play out, or was he just a guy who
yeah, he was well known in our area.
Sweet.
He was the guy to go to sing whatever it was they needed to have sung. But he basically
wow.
quit the music business when I was born, so he could be a family guy.
Oh,
And he didn't want to get caught up in the having to go on the road and all the stuff. He wanted to be
Sure.
around. And he was the one who built our house. Him and,
Wow.
and my uncle, who was building a house next to us, and this was out in the woods, so there was a lot of space. But they had those two houses going on, and it was just, I saw him from the ground up.
oh,
Wow.
that
From
is
babyhood.
awesome.
Yeah.
So then for you, it was music. It was in your house. It was not something that wasn't considered a real thing to do. You know what I mean? Some kids whose parents are rocket scientists.
It was real.
Yeah, cool. So there you are. You're Phil. When do you start playing? How little are you when you're out there with what? And what is your choice of instrument? Did you go?
Yeah, I guess I started on drums because of the Ricky Ricardo experience.
Yeah.
And my parents got me a kid-sized drum set, but they just had, weak heads on them, so they were all broken, and I just would figure out other stuff to hammer on. But then I always had my eye on guitars, and my little sister, who was 3 years younger than me, she ended up getting a guitar for a Christmas present, I believe. It was a plastic one, but she didn't really know how to play it or anything. Neither did I, but I pretended, and I would try to sneak that thing away. And then at some point we got in a big fight, and we were like, "Well, I play it. No, it's mine." And it ended up smashing.
So
like,
very rock and roll, Phil.
Yeah.
So what music what was in the house? What were you listening to? And what
all the greats,
to get that guitar?
My parents had sweet records, and my dad was really into guitars, so he had a lot of Chet Atkins and all the cool guitar.
Les Paul.
Les Paul records, Mary Ford, all that stuff was playing. And I soaked it all up, and then I started trying to pretend I could play, and I figured things out by ear.
Oh, so I was just going to say, did you get any lessons? Did they go, okay, Phil's musical, let's, or your sister?
Well, at one point there was I don't know, it must have been about a month. I went and took lessons from a guy called Uncle Harry. He was this enormous dude. He had to have his guitar like way out here.
Yeah.
And he played, he was really good, but he wanted me to learn these just real kind of standard stuff that you learn on a guitar. And I'm like, no, I want to learn other stuff. And he'd spend the whole lesson writing out in details these notes. And I thought, this is not music, is it? That's what you do. It's these dots. And they like this dot.
Yeah, amen to that.
And all of it just didn't make sense to me. So I would hear him play it, and I'd watch where his fingers were, and I'd listen. And then I'd take that information, and then, the next week I'd go in and I would know it, but I couldn't tell you what those dots meant.
No.
Right.
And he double checked me. He finally figured out, it's like, you're not looking at the paper, are you? You don't see that. Like, no, I hear you, and I'm just doing what you're doing. So I think
there's more of us out there like that than we think.
How old are you right now, Phil?
When?
At the moment?
Not now, but when you took that lesson, when you started taking those first lessons. I know you're 83.
Yeah, pushing it. I'm working on it.
No, you're not. You're as young as I am, or younger.
11, I believe. I was like 11 years old.
Okay.
Serious.
Okay, so you're serious. They gave you lessons. We did the same thing. We got sent to a guy named Seth Rigg for vocal lessons, and we kind of, little rascals, terrorized him. And I don't think he ever wanted us to come back, and we didn't want to be there. And just like, whatever.
That was crazy.
So when do you get your first official band, or you start thinking, if I'm going to be serious, what?
Or a real guitar.
Or a real guitar. Good point.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My dad had this old Martin guitar that was like by the furnace in the basement, and it was just shriveling up in time. He never played it anymore. He had another guitar that belonged to a friend of ours, family friend, and it was a really sweet old Gibson ES 175, and I was not allowed to touch that. And Dad would hardly ever play it either. He would be like, this is Trigg's guitar. Trigg Fosney was the guy who owned the guitar, and he just let my dad hang on to it. But he would hardly ever play it, and I would just be like, I'd sneak up, I was an insomniac, so I would lay awake in bed for hours and hours, and I'd wait until it was completely silent. Then I'd sneak out, put my hands on the guitar, glunk, glunk. Not supposed to do this, it was like verboten.
Wait,
But,
Wow.
I got.
Hey, Bob.
Well, I'm just saying at 11, then you're really tuned into guitar. Now you're gonna be a great lead guitar player. So eventually you're gonna end up in a band with somebody and doing that. But at first, I'm sure you just learn the chords like the rest of us. When do you transition as an 11-year-old? How do you run with what you're learning and what you're getting a taste of?
Well, I was trying to do the stuff like Chet Atkins, and then I got into this phase. I went from being, really interested in like country music, and meanwhile, I had cousins who were they had all the Beatles records, and one of my cousins gave me a couple of Beatles records. So I was like, okay. So the first song I really learned how to play was "Yesterday."
Oh.
But here's the trick: my mom had in her piano bench. I found you could open it up, and she had sheet music for "Yesterday." I'm like, no way. And I was home alone, and it had those chord things. What do they call them? Chord shapes where it shows where your fingers go.
Clefy things, the clefs.
Oh, tabs.
Oh, tabs.
Yeah, tabs.
Like tabs. It wasn't tabs. It was just the chord shapes.
Yeah, where you put your finger on the string. Yeah.
Yeah, where you put your fingers. So I saw that, and I'm like, there it is.
Oh, wow.
And thing is that song, I did not realize at the time there's an easy way to do it and there's a hard way. And I learned the hard way because when I listened to the record, it was an F.
Key of F.
Yeah, but the chords were in G according to this thing. And I'm like, no, I got to learn it like it is on the record. So I did the most incredibly hard chord shapes, and my fingers would just be,
The F was killer as a kid. Yeah.
oh man. So I didn't figure those things out. I'm sorry?
Paul and I weren't guitar players as 11-year-olds, so we don't know your angst.
Well, it's like when you're young like that, it's like, does this have bar chords in it?
Because you got those little wee hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
I still do.
so how did you resolve it?
Well, it's funny because my dad taught me about bar chords, and he said, well, they're really hard because you got to press down, and then but it made me think, well, here's an F chord, and I looked at my fingers, and I'm thinking, these three fingers here, they look just like when I make an E chord, and it's this. So I somehow put it together. It's like that bar is like a capo or something. You just slide it around. And then I learned how to play all kinds in any key I could play chords once I figured it out. So I had the human capo right here. Still got it.
Phil, the only other guy I met and know well that did that was Waddy Wachtel. And I learned to do it too, where you can learn to use your finger as the capo. But you got to learn to play those chords that way. And I saw him do it. Well, he saw me do it once too. He said, "Oh, you learned that, huh?" And not everyone, not everyone does that. Not everyone does that.
Well, there's such a, kind of a, you don't want to do the capo thing.
Right.
Oh yeah, you got to learn the chord. You have to train.
I'm going to get you the capo, but you should learn the chords for real and not have to do the capo. But you can do the capo.
Absolutely.
And then, by the way, one of the biggie moments for me and my dad, my whole family, really, we started when Glenn Campbell had his show come on, because I would see him on all these other shows and be like, that guy's the dude, just like him, and he could do everything.
Yes.
And then he ended up with his own show, the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, and every week I'd sit with my guitar in front of there and record the episodes with my little tape deck, back in those days.
You mean your little cassette thing, or did you have a reel-to-reel?
Yeah. No, it was a cassette.
Yeah, like we had with the two. Yeah, we all had those. Yeah, they were very important in our youth. Yeah. Okay.
They're classic.
So when do you start getting in a band?
I don't think I really even wanted to be in a band, but I got roped into it. In school, there was, several people that were doing band things, and then we'd do jams. And I think, man, whenever we jam, nobody wants to change chords. They all just want to jam on one chord for like 2 hours. And so this is not really much. I tried to be like compositional, and it's like, no, you got to stick inside the jam. And then had two different ways of looking at that. By the way, during that period, I started getting into classical music because I thought I could play this all by myself. Here's the bass part, here's the melody. And then meanwhile, I had been a singer up until my voice started changing. And suddenly I developed a super voice.
A singer in what? A singer in what way? A singer in what way? A choir, or before your voice changed? Were you in choirs? Where were you singing?
I was in choirs. Yeah, I was in choirs in school, of course, but they didn't even know where to put me because my voice was like somewhere between like a tenor and a baritone. Yeah. And sometimes I'd go down into bass, and I was like a little kid, and so I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here,
Oh wow, Froggy!
Wow.
It got froggy, and then I got real self-conscious about it. So, and my dad was such a great singer; he could just automatically just sing anything without even thinking about it. And it's like, I know I can do that, but now my voice sounds like this,
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be that guy. So I basically kind of quit singing for a while. I tried to replace it with playing guitar, and I got into classical music. And then my parents would take me to various classical guitar shows, and we saw like Segovia and Carlos Montoya, and down the line, all these great Charlie Bird, all these guys who could just kill on classical stuff. And after every one of those shows, my dad would have worked it out with the the promoter that I would go back and meet them after the show.
Oh,
and there'd be hardly anybody in there. It was like, and here's me, this little kid, and I'd go, "Can I play your guitar?" And they'd always go, "Yeah, sit down, show me what you can do." So I got to play some of the greatest guitars, that existed.
So Phil,
and,
so at that point,
I got spoiled.
As you say, you didn't really necessarily want to be in a band. You're getting all this kind of beautiful education just authentically and organically with your folks. Before obviously a band's where we're going, before that, how did you figure to parlay this musical life? Were you going to maybe be a classical guitarist, or were you not going to have it as a career and you were going to do something else? I'm trying to go ahead.
No, I always wanted to do that. I had no skills whatsoever outside of music, but I could write. I knew I could deal with. I would write lyrics and things and just kind of put them aside. I never showed anybody my songs back in those days. It was like my secret hobby. And it's like, someday I'll show these to somebody.
You're so funny.
Well,
I mean, really, we interview a lot of folks, and when you do the early time, usually they're like, and then by 10 I was in a band, and you're like, I'm still investigating and researching. I think it's cool. What, Bob?
Well, I was just gonna say, at some point you're in front of somebody performing. There's an audience. Whenever it was, did that excite you at all, or did you go, God, heaven forbid I have to do this for a living? I mean, what was your attitude about an audience and standing up there and exposing yourself like that?
I know I got kicked off of many stages for exposing myself. Probably heard about that. And pardon the pun.
Quite all right.
The thing was I was more interested in the classical thing, so that was like being by yourself. But I also, once I started hanging around with these people who considered themselves classical guitarists and musicians of whatever note up in Duluth, I found out that they were just real dull. No offense to them, but it was like, I need a little more excitement than hanging around and they'd have these composition sort of things, and I would try to write classical type songs,
Wow.
and they would do these really weird things with chords that were all mushed together, and
Sounds
I
like
don't-
you
I don't
had
belong
a
here.
like a musical soul, and but not necessarily the mindset to go and deal with all what all comes with it, is what I'm feeling like. It's awesome, because we met you at Earshot, and you're Phil from Loose Chain. You look completely in your
They didn't
element.
call it earshot, nothing.
Hey,
Yeah.
we were there too, brother. But so okay, so you see that your interests lie with some energy that isn't very exciting for a young man. So now what?
Well, then also, it was like when you'd go to these classical shows, everybody was all kind of uptight, and
Stiff.
I thought, where's all the girls?
Yeah. They call this
Um,
long-haired music. Where are the
Yeah,
girls?
Yeah, I was growing my hair out, and my parents were like, I don't know about that. But yeah, I'd be the only, sort of hipster in the audience. And then I started branching out. Then I got kind of back into, then I had friends who gave me records of various things. And there was a specific guy his name is Scott Junkert, and his dad was the newscaster in town. He was one of the guys you'd see every night on your TV set. So his son was like a year older than me and was in my school, and he started a band. He wanted to call it the Bobo Brothers for some reason, and he wanted it to be sort of like, there are no musical boundaries. We're going to do some rock. We're going to do some jazz. We're going to do. And I'm like, I love all these kinds of things. I'll play with you. We didn't have any, it wasn't like we were trying to do anything for real. It was just this experimental thing. And we had like a couple of horn players, and Scott played marimba. And our drummer, he was all over the shop with all kinds of different styles. And it just was, it was a lot of fun. We didn't really make anything of it. It hardly ever did. We maybe did 2 or 3 gigs in our whole time together, but it was just for
Duluth,
learning.
right?
Basically.
So this is in Duluth. How old are you now? I mean, you're a baby at Earshot, so I'm just can't imagine all this, that you've packed all this in such a
I was
amount of time.
I must have been 15, 16, pushing 17 during that time.
So what brought you to LA? What brought you to LA and the quest for all these
girls?
Well, no kidding. Peter Halsell will tell you, anybody who says that they didn't get into playing guitar and singing and wasn't looking for girls, they're lying. But that's it.
It says, where the girls are.
That's right.
I'm going out there.
So,
but yeah, initially I went to LA because, unfortunately, my dad passed away when I turned 18.
Wow.
And I had just gotten out of high school, and I went berserk. Prior to that, I would never touch any form of, imbibement at all. My parents didn't smoke, and they rarely had any drinks, but when they did, I always noticed, like, it seemed like they're having a pretty good time. But once Dad passed, I went nuts, and then I ended up joining a cover band.
Okay.
And that I just turned 18. So, and where I lived up in Minnesota, and Wisconsin was right next to it. Their legal age to do whatever you wanted to do was 18 years old.
What?
Yeah.
Which, think about that.
Oh no!
Yeah,
like,
that's
we had that
insane.
situation in New York City when I was in high school. You could go up to New York City 18, but
Wow.
yeah, it was the same situation. I'm curious to what kind of cover band you said you'd be in. What kind of cover band were you? A 60s kind of tribute to what was going on at the time? 70s?
No,
What was going on?
It was 1974.
Okay.
And so this was, the band I ended up getting into was actually a working band and I don't even remember how I got introduced to these cats, but they brought me in, and I was like a little kid, and they were a little older, and they played all the current cool rock songs.
Okay, so you had to
So we were
step
doing,
up.
Okay, so you were a current cover band. Interesting. Didn't know they had
Yeah,
them.
yeah. And we did it, I think, and the singer was great, and the whole band was really great. I don't remember what even the hell they were called. It'll come to me, I hope. Nice picture of Earth. Susan, you ducked down and Earth appeared behind you.
I'm sorry, my cat likes to push things off of my desk.
Does your cat have a space helmet on?
Oh man, he's trying to come be up here anyway. Sorry about that.
So this cover band is playing in the LA area or in Duluth?
No, this was in Duluth.
You haven't gotten to
Still
LA
in Duluth.
yet.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't move out there for almost 2 years later. And by that point in time, I'd been in 3 different bands around Duluth. Because the first one I was in, it was working pretty steadily, almost every week, several days a week. And so I actually was, making a little money. And
nice.
And then, you remember Ray Wolf?
Yeah, Ray, of course.
He was in a band called MA Free Press. It was called, and they were like big in Duluth, and they wanted me to join them. And I had known Ray, for years prior to that, and so yeah, we played a few things together. They were the funkiest band you could find. And then I ended up in this other band called Android, which mysteriously it was really they were latched onto by the bikers. But the thing was about them, they dressed up in the most outrageous stuff. They were like modeled after they do all the glam stuff. It was Bowie.
Oh, wow. And the bikers dug them?
Oh, we always thought we were going to get the crap beat out of us. It was like, but no, the bikers fell in love with us. We were like,
that's awesome.
Like we might as well have been trans or something, because they
like the New York Dolls.
Yeah.
We did doll stuff. We did
okay,
anything of that.
That's Todd Rundgren.
Yeah, we did all this crazy stuff. We'd make our own clothes, or else sometimes we'd make trips to Minneapolis to buy the wildest clothes we could get. We made our own out of ice skates. We would take the bottoms out and make them into platform shoes.
Oh my!
At the singers,
you really were.
At a school,
like the Mardi Gras Indians.
Hey, remember, it's a look too. Now, are you establishing yourself now as a lead guitar type of guy? It's getting known. You're a lead guitar. You're focused, and that's your role.
Yeah, I basically was just a noisemaker. When I look back on it, it was like
we've heard your stuff. It's not noise.
I used my the classical stuff I had learned, and I applied that to my electric stuff.
Cool.
I was way into Yes, the band Yes.
Yes.
And so that was like orchestral music. That really turned me on.
Relate.
I'm going to parlay this classical stuff into more of a rock thing. And then I got way into the rock stuff from playing with the guys I was playing with, and it was just a good time.
Well, how did you head west, young man?
Well, that was the thing. After Dad passed away, my mom spent, like a year and a half going like, what am I going to do?
Sure.
She was just having the worst time. And my uncle lived in Arizona, in Phoenix, her brother and his family. And so she decided she had to get the hell out of Duluth. Excuse me, as I belch.
That's quite all right.
But anywho, I was given the choice. I could either move out with Mom and we just start something out there. And I'd been down there several times in my life because we take family trips out there. And sometimes we'd go to these restaurant bar things and they'd have bands. And I thought, well, they've got these places to play.
Yeah, you could play.
And so I gathered my buds around and I said, I'm leaving town, not going to be in Duluth anymore. And whoever wants to come out with me can do that. So Ray Leggett, who you guys may remember, he was the bass player. He was an Android. Yeah, he was like the world's handsomest bass player, and you know,
everybody was handsome to me back then. I cannot differentiate between y'all. Go.
That's because you had your eye patches on all the time.
Yeah, well, I still do. I still do, Phil.
Yes,
so you're coming to LA. We moved out to Phoenix originally, and then we found out within the first couple of days, we went around to all these clubs and said, "Hey, we're putting a band together. We want to play here." And they would all one after the other say, "Well, we're closing down. We're not going to have a stage anymore. We're going to put up a disco ball. We're going to have a DJ. We're going to do all disco." So it was like, what?
Bye-bye.
All my dreams of having this Phoenix thing happen just fried right up. Yeah. And meanwhile, our drummer Milt, who had just moved up there as well, he had relatives. Yeah, Milt Boyat.
Oh, we remember all
he
you
had
guys.
relatives. You crazy, you Cowsills, you.
We are.
It's all your fault. Had anything going on because we would just do everything. Wherever you'd let us play, we'd go there.
You guys were so cute. Keep going. Where were we?
But so Milt had relatives out there, so we would take trips out. And then it was like, well, what the hell are we doing in Phoenix? There's nothing there. So we took our cars and we went and lived in them for about a year, just around LA.
Wow.
And, so that was just before we met you guys.
Okay, so how'd you come up with the money to rehearse?
77,
like Zodi's parking lot.
We talking 77?
Yeah, it was 76, 77.
Yeah, 76,
when we
77.
got there. And then, there was a period. In fact, I think we still were living in our cars when we got the.
I think you were too.
The studio, you guys.
I think I remember that part of your story.
Yeah, and don't ever tell Bob, the owner of the studio. What was Bob's
Chambers? Yeah.
Bob Chambers.
Yeah, what a guy. I think he knew, because sometimes we'd take our sleeping bags and we're not going to sleep in our cars someplace tonight in a parking lot. So we'd like hunker down, and then you guys would roll in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Let me set this up, guys, just to set this up. We are at Earshot Studios. Now we're at Earshot Studios to rehearse, because we hope, and we eventually do actually go into the studio to record this Cocaine Drain album we're going to have in our history. That's what we're working on. Phil's in a group called Loose Change with Milt and Ray. I think there's a fourth guy, right? You were
Milt and Ray, and there were two Rays, Ray Wolf and Ray Leggett.
Two Rays, lead singer, bass player. Okay. And they're at Earshot. You have your co-band rehearsing. They're rehearsing for their shot at all of this. And we kind of, shared this rehearsal studio through all of this transition that we were going through. And now historically, we know you were going through, Phil, because the story of we read about you with Loose Change, we had no idea, because we're going to part ways. And you got to tell the story when you're in Loose Change, a great rock band. In fact, the last time I saw Loose Change live, they were shredding White Christmas at the Troubadour.
Ah!
And I'll never, ever forget that show.
Oh, me either now.
My jaw was on the floor. Anyway, so, but what's going to happen?
What were you doing there?
We were watching Loose Change. We went to see, anyway. And they
started.
I remember that.
Huh?
I just remembered that night.
Did shows together every once in a while. Were you not on that bill?
I don't know. Were we on the same night?
Maybe that's what it was.
What bill?
Was,
they played a couple of times.
At the Troubadour.
And he could play at the Troubadour. It's like, let's do it.
Anyway, I'll never forget the visual of White Christmas and what you guys did to it. But so bring us It was rock. It was insane, man. Are you kidding? It was right up there with what, to me, it was the only other example I had. What somebody did was what Hendrix did with the national anthem at Woodstock. These guys did that to white Christmas at the Troubadour. You just need to know this, okay? Whatever my memory is, very memorable. So
Really
take
stole that
loose
from-
change. You guys are trying to get
the
signed.
Android that we had done it in Android as well, except
Oh, really?
in that band we were dressed to the max in like girls' clothes.
Nice.
That
So loose change, you think loose change is going to be your ticket? You're going to get signed. Did you ever get signed with loose change?
no, we tried everything. I mean, we were actually originally called, unbelievably, Cupid, and we had this, rock persona thing. And then you guys must remember Randy Rhodes that lived
Yes.
up the road.
Absolutely.
So he
I
was
do.
one of my besties back then, and he kept saying, "You got to come with me down to the manager's place because I think you guys should be in our management company." And so he and I went down there, and he brought me in, and they interrogated me and said, "Well, what do you think you're going to do?" Meanwhile, I had this huge long hair and everything, and they said, "Well, you're probably going to have to change your image."
Oh,
So after the meeting, we went back up into Burbank, and I had to, sit down with the guys in the band and say, well, they want to sign us, but they want us to change how we look. And we all freaked out because, like, once you have long hair, it's like really hard to, imagine cutting it.
Big time.
So this is our foot in the door, we got to do
Yeah.
something. Oh, here, let me hit a light.
So you did it?
Yeah, you guys were there. You were probably
See, I must have
witnessed-
blocked this out.
transition. Yes, it
Two
was such a
boys cut their
severe
hair.
I know, we had super long hair.
Did you get in the studio?
And we had to look all, like punks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Everything was
Okay.
happening.
Okay.
So, and then our music, it was like, and they also said, you got to write something that is not like everything else that's happening right now.
Oh,
Listen to some punk stuff.
great
And so we
advice.
started going out and seeing punk bands. And I got way into it, and it was like, man, you don't even have to know how to play this music. So I wrote some songs, had less guitar, it was all just slamming,
Yeah.
but it let you concentrate more on the song than being some kind of a
Right.
player
Okay.
so much.
Yeah.
It kind of took, and I had thought I was really going to be this like virtuoso type player, but I didn't really like that because I really wasn't that good. I wasn't good
Yeah.
enough to do that. But I knew I could write songs and I knew I could deliver them in some way, but I didn't want to have to do all the fussy stuff that, made those guys who ended up being like the pro rocker guys.
Okay.
I didn't want to have to concentrate that hard. And it's like, and look at their audience. They're all guys.
Yeah.
It's like,
So
there was that.
are you called Loose Change while you're being these new punk guys?
Yeah, that's when we changed it to Loose Change. And that was
Oh.
Milt's idea.
What were
This
you
is
writing
good.
for
Figure out-
Loose Change? What
This
were you-
is loose change.
Yeah, it was, well, when we met you guys, I think we may have still been Cupid, but we were going through that change. So
Oh,
we
wait a
thought it
minute. I
was-
think you're right. God, my brain is flipping out.
Yeah.
I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah, you were
so-
called Cupid.
Okay, so now we had a great time with Loose Change in the studio because back then we're working on dreams. We're gonna go back in the studio. We're gonna have another hit, we think, at the time, and they're gonna get a deal and get signed. We're all positive and working on it and working on it. So just so we don't keep you for 4 more hours, we want to know out of Loose Change, you're being eyeballed during Loose Change by Ian from the great from Quick. I think Quick was a big band at the
Oh
time.
yeah, well, I was
And they're going to find you.
hanging out with all the Quick guys because we had mutual friends. It was like, the Quiet Riot gang were sort of like, that's what our band, it's, if I tell the whole story, we'll be here all night, but it was very deep and our whole relationship relationship with everybody in that whole scene was very thick at the time. And then suddenly I find myself with various females going to these Quick shows. And the first time I saw the Quick, I thought, why am I not in this band? Or, this is like what I really want to do. I'm done kind of with the, the hard rock thing, although I still loved it. But it was like the Quick, to me, was like, wow, they're doing something new. And so I just kind of bonded with some of them. And it was just like moving in and out of the scene, because those two scenes, the rock scene and the Quick scene was kind of in the rock scene, but that was like the more of a punk thing. But it was like, that's the direction we got to go.
We're starting to get rock was getting that punk edge,
and they started coming out. Yeah, they would come to our shows, and Ian, the bassist in the Quick, was the one who'd always kind of, I could see he's like, oh, he's checking it out. So once there was some ruffles going on in the loose change thing, which culminated in like a really weird gig where I had my family at this place down at one of the beach joints, with the killer giant ballroom. And what was it called?
Maybe Sweetwater. That was one of the Hermosa.
Oh, it might have been. Yeah, it was like one of those kind of places. But
the Golden Bear also.
Oh, I think it was the Golden Bear.
Those are the bigger places that you're describing. Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, and I think we had opened for maybe it was Tommy Two Tone or somebody like that.
Sounds right.
Yeah, and then right after our show, I went to the. It's like I checked the guest list to see why my mom and my girlfriend and my brother were not allowed backstage, because I see them out. And so I walk over to the the dude who's watching for the doorman. I said, hey, can I? Yeah, but it wasn't even like a dorm. It was like this just big space. It's like, hey, that's my my family and my girlfriend here. Can I get them back? He's like, if they're not on the list. And I said, well, I don't know why they're not on the list. So I took the pencil and I started writing their name on the list, and the guy punched the pencil out of my hand. And my brother, who's like a martial arts major, he's younger than me, but he was like, he saw that, and the guy punched the pencil out of my hand, and I went for the dude, and he just hauled off and boom, punched me, and I went flying. And they had these the old westerns in the saloons where the doors are, they're doing this.
Yeah.
You know them well.
Things, and I landed in a kitchen, and my brother just attacked that guy. So it was like this mayhem. Yeah, and after the whole thing was over, and a couple other guys from the band I had got in and pulled those guys apart. Meanwhile, my mom and my girlfriend were freaking out. And after the whole thing, they wanted me to apologize. And I'm like, I think not.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my peeps backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's my show, they're my list and my peeps. What's the problem?
Yeah, but they didn't even give me a chance to put them on the list. So when I finally did it, this is what happens.
Got it.
Just these tough guy type people, I was just like, which is kind of the story of my life. Many stories.
So was that with Loose Change?
Yeah.
And that was that. It
was pretty much that. I think we had a couple of gigs that were booked that I had to do. And but at that point, the next day we had the meeting at Earshot, where we all sat in a circle on some stools looking at each other. And the guys basically said, so are you going to apologize? And I said,
boy.
No. And then the phone rang in the other room.
Yeah, we remember the phone.
Yeah, the phone was ringing, and when I said, I'm gonna answer that, and I went and did it. Ian Ainsworth from the Quick. He's like,
shut up.
just checking to see if there's any way you'd want to join our new band. Great building.
You
The
can't
timing
make
couldn't
that
have
up.
been more. No, it's just bizarre. It's so bizarre.
All right,
You
you
know, it
hung
was
up
like-
the phone. You hung up the phone.
Yeah, Bob.
You come back to the circle. And what did you
Yep.
say?
And I said, I'm out, you know, I'm gonna be in this other band. So
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And then-
Oh, that is
So
not what they expected
you're
you
not
to
gonna
say.
bend over and take it,
Yeah, right.
you know.
Whoa. Wow,
So,
Bill, great story. Go, Bob.
Okay, now everybody is on board now. We know great buildings. I mean, maybe a lot of people didn't know Loose Change history, but we know great buildings. It was a great album. You had a great shot with Columbia and who was it? Philbin signed it. Anyway,
Yeah,
take me through that where that you got some belief in you now and you got a shot.
yeah. Well, once I made that transition, and I got to say though, the gigs that we did following that, you know, the Loose Change gigs that we had to do, one of them was down in San Diego at this theater, and the guys from the Quick, well, Danny and Ian from the Quick, came down and they sat right in the front row, right in front of us, and you know, they were like psyching out the rest of the guys in the band, and they were giving me the like, "Rah, you're gonna be in our band."
Oh my God.
And I remember Danny had lit a cigarette and he flicked it at me, and I saw it coming up at me, and I caught it and I put it in my mouth, and it was like,
Oh,
Shut
that was it.
I can see that. I can see that. That's a great move. That
Yeah,
could
we
almost
have-
be okay, meant to be. I'm in this band now, right?
Yeah, it was just too many coinkydingle things that happened.
Now, by the way, he says Danny. This is a big name in his history because Danny Wilde and Phil Solem they're like Alice in Chains to me. The two harmonies and what they're going to do with their vocals all through
Alice
the
in Chains?
Rembrandts. Huh?
Did you
The
say
two harmonies.
Alice in Chains?
Yeah, Alice in Chains, those two harmonizers, man. They were like rock
Alice in
Simon and
Chains?
Garfunkel. Isn't that the man in the box? Those two
Alice in
harmonies on
Chains?
that record? Yes, two harmonies.
I don't even know Alice in Chains. Is that that's a band, right?
Go
Oh,
look for him,
Very
Phil.
funny. Hey, Alice in Chains is one of the great rock duo harmonizers
Of all time.
Must check them out. I mean, geez, I'm like 67 years old. You think I'd know a thing like that?
that's okay. But you two guys,
mean,
so
there's-
Danny is Danny Wilde. He meets Danny. Danny's
Yeah.
been in your life, I think, even before that. And you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
you're gonna be co-songwriters and have a career. So
Who knew?
he's in great buildings with you and Ian. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
So yeah, I mean, because those guys, I don't know if they left the Quick per se, or if the Quick just decided to kind of split off. But that band was so great, and yet I knew that, you know, because Ian and Danny were amazing songwriters, and they never got a chance to do any of their material in the Quick. So
Why?
they
Who was
well,
providing
because
material?
Steve Hofstetter was like the main guy. He
Steve
was the
Hofstetter was in the Quick?
Yeah. Yep.
My 80s brain is
Well,
exploding.
you must know him from something, right?
The
he was
two
in-
Tectones.
Oh, he
Carlos,
had-
right? Am I right? Am I there? Is
I
that
I
where
don't know well, I'm sure that they're all in the same, you know, we all sort of travel in the same.
Steve Hofstetter, I think he was a Textone with Carla
He made-
Olsen, Kathy Valentine. I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
but
we got-
meanwhile, yeah, all these people were in the same soup
I know it,
being-
man.
mixed together.
Wow.
now if Danny and Ian are in great buildings and they're co-writing, what do you start writing with Danny also, and that relationship develops there?
Yeah, well, I mean, they already had like 6 or 7 killer songs, and then we just started writing more songs, you know, putting our parts together and stuff. So I was a little later on the, you know, the input side of that, but I could totally relate to everything they were doing, and vice versa, I guess.
Yeah.
So we just, you
So
know,
you're getting
we
a
did-
one album
we did actually 2 albums,
too.
but during the making of the second album, and mind you, we had been signed for an 8-album deal with
Wow.
Columbia. So, you know, this is like, ooh, I'll be doing this for a
What,
while.
8 albums?
I know. Back in those days, it was like, that's what they
Yeah, yeah,
wanted.
yeah. Yep.
And
Forgot
so
about that
it
too.
was
What
all
happened?
set up, you know, and they were trying to like groom us to be
What is going
next
on,
thing.
Robert?
Sorry, I'm getting the sunshine coming in out of. Go ahead.
Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, Phil.
at the sunshine. I hope it doesn't do an EMT on us.
If I disappear, don't worry about me. All right, go ahead. All right, so all right, let's
Would.
keep going here. So great buildings. You get into the studio. You got an 8-album deal. You're only going to get 2. What happened during the second?
Well, I had a new girlfriend, and well, she ended up in the familial way,
Okay.
Oh,
and so we were shocked by that. And you know, she was being, you know, having to make a decision like, should we have this kid or
wow.
what? You know, and I was like, well, it's our kid, we got to do it. So meanwhile, her people on her side were saying, now just, you know, move away. Her sister, by the way, I don't know if you remember Ton Mastery. She was
I
like
do.
a huge metal DJ. You know, she was like
I know who she is.
Oh.
she was called the Leather Nun back in the day.
Yeah.
So she was my then, you know, girlfriend's big sister, and Ton was like telling her little sister, it's like, no, come and move to San Francisco and just forget about that life and everything. But I was like, no, this is our kid. And so I had to make some kind of a major decision, and that was to, well, I was put on the spot. It was like the only way that she was going to go for this is if we were to move to Minneapolis, where she came from.
Oh, wow.
That's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No,
Yeah, you
back
got
in
out.
76, I didn't want to go there, but that was the thing. It was like, we're going to have this kid, and I'm not going to let that, you know, stop that. So I had to tell Danny, and I remember calling Danny from a phone booth in Burbank and telling him, and he just got so mad at me.
Oh,
You know what to do, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. So we, you know, I said, I gotta put an end to it. You guys are gonna have to keep moving on.
Wow.
well, that was the end of great buildings then.
Yes.
Well, it
But I
did.
must say, it felt like we were going inside of great buildings. We were going musically in different directions too. It just had, you know, we had a few years of just doing this certain sort of thing, and then Danny was really experimenting, almost doing like solo stuff, because he'd bring songs in that we were like,
Weren't fitting.
how does this fit in with what we're doing, you know? And
But
great
you and
buildings was
Danny-
very, you know,
You and Danny
NDO
are
sort
gonna,
of thing.
yeah, you and
Yeah.
Danny are gonna survive all this craziness right now. How's Danny end up
Wait,
paying?
but hang on, we got to digress a little bit because so are you a dad? Did you become a dad?
Yes, I sure did.
Oh, okay.
1982. My
Okay.
kid, who's now a big girl, and she is she's still in LA. She's,
Wow.
you know, taking
How's
over
she
LA.
doing?
I'm sorry.
How's she doing?
Oh, she's doing fantastically.
Awesome. Dude, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, she
Oh,
look
Okay,
her up. Holly M. Solem
Holly
is
what?
her.
Holly Solem.
Yeah, well,
Holly M. Solem.
M.
She puts the M in between. She didn't want to be Holly Solem for a long time because it automatically made her be, you know, my kid. And so, you know, everyone would go, oh yeah, you're the Rembrandts' daughter. And so she, you know, and she's a songwriter. She's an
Oh,
amazing
great.
songwriter.
oh,
Oh, you passed.
So for her, since she was a teenager, she's been writing songs. but she always had like some other name. She'd go by Holly Marilyn.
Oh,
She'd go
that's
by
cool.
whatever she could think of to,
Crazy.
kind of like not have to be associated with me. Not because she didn't love me, but because she didn't love having to be like, oh, her dad's kid,
It
And
happens.
so,
It happens. All right. So you and Danny now are you're a songwriting team. You're gonna write songs and live and get through all of this. And does he stay in LA while you head to Minnesota, or what happens there? How do you get to the Rembrandts?
yeah, well, he tried to talk me out. He started a solo career, and I could have been a part of that. At first, I thought I was going to be, but then it looked like he found people that thought, no, he can do what he's doing is what we want. And I was sort of like the boat anchor because I was always Mr. Experiment guy.
Yeah.
I wanted to make everything new and different. And they saw what he could do and like, no, we want to keep him in a box.
Yeah.
And we're not going to let him go outside that box. This is going to be successful because it won't be, like trying too hard or whatever. And so I just, I would float in, help out a little bit. And then I didn't want to commit, because it was involved touring and all the other stuff. I'm like, no, I'm a dad now. I'll just write my own songs and do my own thing on my own time. So but
finally you're full
there
in.
it wasn't Minneapolis. It's
So the
world.
Rembrandts came out of Minneapolis then, or you went back to LA and Danny and you hooked up, and the Rembrandts are LA.
Well, I would go back and forth to work with Danny on various things. And we sort of dipped our toe in the water and we knew we had something going on, but at the same time, it was, in our mutual thing, which was that we could sing together, which we didn't really discover that. I kind of gave up on singing until I got in Great Buildings, really.
Oh.
And then I was singing harmonies because we had 3-part harmonies, as you guys may remember, from seeing our shows and stuff.
Definitely.
That was like that was our ticket right there. It was,
Right.
they're like Cowsills and Nash or something,
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was great. You guys were great. I loved Lucy Change.
Hey, and I just want to say one thing because you mentioned your vocals. Hey, Phil, if everyone, you can YouTube all this stuff we talk about on these episodes. There's a song called Someone that Phil sings. I'm sure it's you because it didn't sound like Danny. And it is so good.
That was me.
Yeah, that was you. You must have loved that result. Very fine recording. And let me tell you, that was a great vocal.
I sure appreciate it.
And all their vocals.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what else we have in common with the Rembrandts and Phil is that the Cowsills and the Rembrandts.
Deer shot?
I think, nope, we both had songs in Dumb and Dumber, the movie. It says you had a song in Dumb and Dumber. Yeah. That happened to you.
What song is yours in Dumb and Dumber? How do I not know this?
You have Going Down the Road or Driving Down the Road, or let me see. Where is it? You know what song?
Okay, now that gives me another reason. Very classic Christmas movie.
Yep, it was called Driving Down the Road, Going Down the Road.
But y'all didn't end up on the album either, correct?
No, they weren't on they put out a soundtrack album, left our song off of it, and
yours
and the Rembrandt song.
No, our song is on there. Our song is called Rolling Down the Hill.
Rolling Down the Hill, that was it, not down.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that was in the movie. Oh, then it made I pulled up the soundtrack. I couldn't find your entry there. But yeah, that was a cool thing that we both did. Now I know you guys made a lot of money off getting a song in Dumb and Dumber. We didn't get a cent. So hopefully your business.
Not a dime.
Yeah, no, we didn't even know it was in
nothing,
it. My daughter called me. Yeah, I got a call from the movie theater. Hey, your song's in Dumb and Dumber. Now, years after, I told everyone years later that I took meetings with Jim Carrey to get it in the movie and that we became good friends. But
here's the thing, Phil, the Cowsills did not own any of their publishing or none of our rights until about 7 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that. We
Wow.
didn't. Yeah,
Did you have to
all the
fight
money.
Yeah, we
all
had to bring-
Go ahead.
The big diamond, because we've been on this for an hour with Phil. We got to let him go. We all know
Okay.
and have discussed the Friends song, and everyone knows the story of how you kind of got the Friends song. There's some confusion. And by the way, people, if you don't know, the Rembrandts did the "I'll Be There for You" and the Friends thing. And that's a big, big highlight in the career of these guys. Yeah, of course it is. But we were just curious if
Well, put the light on for sure.
stories about who wrote it, and you came in and finished it later, and it wasn't just this one song here, do it. It evolved. Can you just quickly take us through that you've done 1,000 times?
Yeah, well, this is my perspective, and I was pretty good at that. Yeah,
That's what we want.
took the gig because you know, they wanted somebody that already was, you know, a big name to do it. They thought they could get REM, but REM was like, we're not doing a TV show. And so well, let's see what else is in that. Rem. How about the Rembrandts? Well, we were on the same publishing company, and you know, handily. So, and it turned out that the producer, you know, like the executive producer, Kevin Bright, was a fan of our stuff. And so
Good.
he's like, no, these guys are the sound of this. Let's get them. And so they, from what I heard, it was like they wanted us to write something for it. So I started writing all these songs. I had 3 or 4 songs to go because we saw the trailer,
Yeah.
the pilot show. And it was like, this is going to be a great show. Let's do it. And so I had ideas for songs. And then we get in there, and their guy, you know, their music director, who was married to one of the producers, had his own idea. And he just had kind of a sketch of a song, and no lyrics or anything. I think he thought it was going to be called "I'll Be There for You." He kind of had that chorus idea, and he had some chords and no real lyrics. So we got together, and they already decided they wanted to get Allie Willis to write the lyrics. So we were waiting, sitting around in a little room for these faxes to come in. You know, fax machines. It was in 1993, I think, is when we did this. Maybe 94. But yeah, we wait for this piece of paper to come rolling out, and then it's like, okay, that's what we're gonna sing. So we, you know, Michael Skloff had his idea of what the melody was, but he phrased it really weird, I thought. You know, he's a piano player, so he had this piano way of doing it. And so we are trying to figure out, how do these scan out, you know, lyrically and phrase wise. And we would, you know, have to like get a hold of Allie and say, can you make something more like this? And she would just keep sending these ideas. And then we just kind of bolted them all together. And the only, you know, musically, it just kind of went down as like this, you know, it was all like everybody's swimming in the same puddle. And the kicker for me was she had a line, and it went along with what Michael had on his piano. And it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, your year, is what he had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound right. How about, it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year, but.
Oh, okay.
Put a but in.
Oh, wow. Big dip. Big dip.
So anyway, that it changed it up a little bit. And then, you know, meanwhile, we rocked out the arrangement, and I, you know, made up the twangy intro stuff and the
guitar,
junk that's in there. And so that was it. And it was only 42 seconds long. You know, we did like a day, but by the time we went to cut the actual vocal, once we figured out, here's how it's going to scan out. By that time, we had drank so many beers or whatever it was we had back in the days. We were just like tossed. So they said, all right, we're going to come back tomorrow and do it for real. Because we couldn't stop laughing. You know, we're just like gagging on everything. Everything was a joke to us. So we came back in, and then when they played the track, they had already put in this.
Yeah.
All right, there's your song. That's all you need.
That's
So
amazing.
then we
Right.
sang it for, and then
Now, when you finish it,
a
when you,
week.
when you're done, you feel like, okay, we're done with this. The show's not out. Do you just forget about it and then you?
Yeah, right.
This has really happened in this song.
No, what happened was they wanted to put us in the credits, and we just started freaking out because anybody that is doing, because we were working on our third album, it was almost ready to come out.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't want to be associated with a TV show. We didn't know if it was going to be accepted or not, but just the idea that act like us would be doing something like that was, you just didn't do this back in the early 90s. If you did that, you're selling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
remember all that. Couldn't wait for Dwayne
Yeah,
to sell
it
out.
was a very tough thing. So we made a deal with them, like, keep us off the credits, and then we'll let this happen. That was sort of the cincher. And so no one had any idea. And next thing you know, it turns into a giant like guessing game. People out in the world, there was some website that it was like, who did this Friends song? And
Yeah.
people
Oh.
were guessing, and
How
all these
about
things,
that?
certain people.
Busted.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and then there was a DJ, and I live in Nashville now, and I still haven't met this cat, but he's a Nashville DJ. Can't remember his name. I hate to say it. I didn't know it, but I have a terrible memory, especially for names. But
That's
this
the
dude-
first sign.
yeah, here we go, and going down the old rabbit hole. I've had that sign all my life there, Paul.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you wear the name tag, I will call you. I'll call you Paul.
All right. So what
But
happened?
anyway,
Oh yeah.
so he took the song. He was getting, people were calling into his station, and I'm assuming this happened all over the place. I guess that's part of the myth of the whole thing, is that people were calling their radio station saying, hey, where can we get this song? Are you going to play it on the radio? And this dude took the song and just looped it like 3 or 4 times over, made it into like a 3-minute pop
Yeah,
song,
just short.
except it just,
Yeah.
and so
Wow.
it became like a hit on their station.
I mean,
And then it just, our record company president, who was new for us, and that's a big long story, but we went from being the darlings of this label that we were on, which was Atco at the time, to having it change over to this other label that was, part of the mega, Geo record world.
conglomerate
Atlantic Records.
merge.
Everybody, like, all their little boutique, excuse me, not that Atco was a boutique thing, but it was like, it was like us, AC/DC, Bad Company, and I can't remember who else was on there, but we were like a family.
Yeah.
And suddenly it was like this giant corporation, and they said, all right, this is a hit song, and you're going to finish writing it, and you're going to put it on your record. And it's like, meanwhile, our record sounded like,
Nothing.
it was dark.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
For the Rembrandts, because we were sort of pop guys, and then we started just touring a lot, and all the other acts that we were on stage with were doing these giant sounding,
Rock
heavy
ballad.
rock. It's like we just started writing more songs that were like that. And so suddenly to do like
Yeah.
this didn't make any sense.
Got it.
What
All
a
right,
trip, man. What a journey.
we'll put this on, we'll put the song on the record. If it can be the last song, and you have to listen to the last song on the record to get to that song. It's a hidden track.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I know. They finally agreed to that, and they had
Wow.
to recall all the pressings they did. They did like 100,000
Oh, my.
pressings, they had to recall all of those and put stickers on them and replace all the CDs with
Holy
fresh
cow.
ones that had that. I know, it's just bizarre.
It is bizarre. Your
Um,
whole like thing. I mean, it just never stops with the kind of cooking.
So it just for every door shutting, there was
Yeah.
16
Yeah.
doors
A
open.
new one opens.
Crazy,
Yeah.
beautiful. What, Bob? What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say with the success now, of course, the song's gonna be a big hit. It's gonna, number whatever here, number one all over the world and other places, and you've got this monster on your hands now. So, and it's part of your third album, right? It's part of your third album.
Suddenly there it is, and
suddenly there
then
it
they
is.
had to do another reprint and actually make it so it wasn't hidden, as far as I
Right.
know.
Once it established itself.
Yeah.
So now, was that your last album, the third album for the Rembrandts? Was that going to be it?
Well, at that point in time, there
Other than
was just so-
2019 and Via Satellite is coming, but at that time,
Yeah. Well, this was back in 1994, I think, is when that's when the show
whole
came out.
Friends thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then 95 was when the album came out, and we'd already done a video with the cast of Friends. And so, we're locked into this thing, and that
Yeah.
there's no turn.
You are it. Yeah.
So,
Was that
yeah.
painful? Was that video with the cast members kind of painful to get through? You guys just pretended like they
No,
weren't
not
there, I
us.
think. What
I'd
was
say
it?
it was painful for a couple of the cast members.
Oh,
Because they wanted to be on, they were a holiday, it was like they wanted to go to Mallorca or whatever it was. They
Right.
had different plans. But no, they're, Warner Brothers said, no, you have to do this video with these guys. So there was mixed feelings, and, it was,
Actorly type activity.
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, it was a fun time. We spent 2 days doing it. And,
Fun for y'all.
we had as good a time as we could have. A couple of them were like, didn't really want to participate in the fun, but most of us did.
Yeah.
So,
It's a good video. It's a good video.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
love
time-
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
it. It is now.
a crazy little nugget.
What are
Well,
you
dude.
what are you doing now?
Yeah. What's new?
Just chilling. We just finished another record.
Who
Oh,
we?
that's a big statement. So
You mean
how,
the Rembrandts? You mean
Yeah.
your first record since 1990? Whatevs?
No. We put out one like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
well, that's the Via
Which took
Satellite.
us
right?
because we hadn't put it. I mean, we had another one we put out in like 2000, early 2000s. We only do them every decade or so.
That's like us.
Uh-huh.
That's me and my solo
Yeah.
records.
We're like that. We're like
Yeah.
that. But you really just finished an album that's going to come out. Honestly, you just finished it.
Yeah, we don't know when it's going to come out.
Okay.
That's
It's
exciting.
funny because this was pre-pandemic, or actually no, the pre-pandemic one it's called Via Satellite.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that one we were about to go on a promotional tour, and it was all being set up. And then suddenly everything was locked down. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we were scared to death. It's like,
What
we're not
timing.
going out in the world. And
Yeah.
So it just fizzled.
It's
So we
funny.
never got any.
Yeah, it's your timing was unfortunate in that you're done in 2019 and this thing's coming the very next time you need to get out.
Yeah.
We were
That's-
lucky. We just finished recording an album when that hit, so we at least got to mix it during the pandemic, during the shutdown,
There
remotely.
was some
Oh,
activity.
funny
Well, we
time.
did it remotely with Frank Filippetti. He's in his studio in Connecticut. We're just, what we're doing
Yes.
back and forth. Took 8 months,
Sure.
but at least we got to do it. You can't go on the road, but we at least got to mix ours. That was a tough time. So what do you do? So now what do you do with it? What's the plan?
We don't know.
Oh, how
Okay.
I
exciting.
mean, there are 2 ways to look at it. We could put it out as, we could shop it as a legit album and do the whole puppet show, which you know what that involves. Or we
Again.
could put it out as a, here it is, and really we want to get what we want ultimately is licensing,
Yeah.
to be able to take these songs and put them in different
Yes.
movies and TV and whatever,
Nice.
you know.
Nice.
And let the songs do the work
Yeah.
so that we don't have to fly around and, you
We
know,
understand that, Phil. We understand that.
to
We would love the
know
same.
this story.
Yeah, man. How old are you now, Phil?
I'm 6 centuries old and 7 years.
Okay, I'm 6 centuries and 4. I
So
don't
you're
even-
just still,
yeah.
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 With my
both
filter
children.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got the youth movement here with us, Paul. We got the youth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because these guys are old
I love that.
popos, man. They're just
Hey,
like,
Phil,
oh,
we got to let you go, but man, you have a rich history, and I really appreciate you sharing it here. Yeah.
and I want to
Crazy.
say that it is like, as far as rich histories go, you know, we all have really long ones. Maybe me and the guys have a little bit longer than others. But when you have a time in your life, what is impactful to you for whatever reason, ours was working on, and you meet people and they become really significant to you emotionally. I will never forget you guys. You're like dear
Likewise.
childhood friends.
Yep.
well, we're like a family. I mean, you guys like
Yes.
adopted us into your family. And
Loved
it
you.
really felt like we were, you know, we were like sort of unofficial Cowsills or something.
You were,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that is what
We
I'm
love
loving
loose change.
about
Loose
this
change.
now. Go ahead, Polly.
Hey,
Well,
yeah, Paul.
I was just going to say, we love Loose Change. We loved you guys, just, as familia. But man, when I found out that all this stuff that happened to you, man, I couldn't have been more excited.
Yeah, we
I
were
was
so
just
proud.
tripping that we spent all that time with you guys, and Rick, you made it above the fray. That was awesome.
It's funny. You mentioned disco in the 70s and how it got in your way. Out of earshot, we went and recorded this Cocaine Drain album, totally out of step with anything that was going on. And we're in there working on it like, oh, this is great. This is great. And we came out of that with that album, and the disco was just raging by then. And we were so irrelevant. But like you guys, you make a good record, you're happy. You're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say,
Well,
I
you
hope,
learn
hope
out at the end of it.
What's
exactly.
You know, like now we have to actually go and do this.
that? Oh,
I know, right? I
Well,
like the way you're
yeah.
thinking, and
Hey.
I want the Cowsills to adopt that theory and let these songs do the work.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say keep your ears and eyes open for the Rembrandts. I am, because
Yes.
if you
It's
listen to
gonna
the
be
music,
badass.
you guys have been great recording artists all along, and great vocals, great arranging of the arrangement of the vocals and the two harmony. What you do, you know what you do, and I don't
Well,
think
we're
that
Everly Brothers Jr. as well.
Everly Brothers.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
right.
I mean, you and Danny doing Everly Brothers. My brother Bill and I did Everly Brothers in the beginning, and it's what
Yeah.
it does. It
Go ahead,
teaches
Polly.
you so much.
The
We'll
thing
never
that-
forget.
Once you do
But-
it, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But none of us will ever forget the pinball machine, the Fireball XL.
Fireball at earshot.
Remember the
At
pinball
earshot.
machine at earshot?
Hey,
oh
Look,
my
for
God,
2 seconds,
I've
he
forgotten
forgot
what the game was. I would lose on that thing all the time.
hey,
Yeah.
and no
Couldn't
one
make it.
will ever and no one will ever forget the Christmas lights that the Cowsills put at earshot, because they just had to have Christmas.
Yeah.
All
That-
right,
that was-
Bill Tallman, we love you. We love
Yeah,
you. We
Bill,
love you. We
thank you
love
so
you.
much. Nashville, baby, I love it.
Tell Ray, tell Milt, tell anybody.
Hey, when we're in
you know.
Nashville, maybe we can come and see you.
Yeah, or come to the Happy Together show.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Let's do
I'll
it.
be in touch with you. We come to Nashville every summer, so we'll get in touch. And
Well,
let you-
Yeah,
see
we
you
need
guys
hugs.
here.
All right, man.
Awesome.
All right, everybody.
Love
Luke
you.
King,
Yeah,
great
big
building.
time. Big time.
Rembrandts,
Love
Phil
you too,
Solomon,
Phil.
Danny Wilde, big names in rock history. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Bye, boys. Love you
Great
guys.
meeting
See you
you again.
later. Ciao, man, amigos.
Bye, everybody.
Merry Christmas.